Welcome back to Democracy, Disney, and Drinks. We're doing a double episode today because there's so much shit going on. And I know that my sister had a whole lot to talk about on the healthcare side of things. Again, she's a pharmacist, so this is all just very near and dear to her heart, of course. So without further ado, let's get into it. I have not even been paying attention. Well, I have, but I've not done deep dives. You have, and I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on
I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. A little bit.
Do tell.
So RFK Jr. obviously just gets my blood fucking boiling when he talks about vaccines and autism and the fact that we're having measles outbreaks, and it's mind numbing. And I did find a little tidbit, how he was talking about autism and how we're going to find a cure for it, or the reasoning behind it, because he's doing all this special stuff. But his thing was that it's an environmental thing because we're seeing just so much more of it now. Fun fact for anybody that isn't aware, the big claim back in the day, that got the previous researcher, if that's what you want to call him, that lost his license, Andrew Wakefield.
Are you talking about the researcher that initially connected autism to vaccines? Yeah,
falsely connected with really sketchy, data and just really poor methods. To the thimerosal. It's like a mercury-based component of vaccines. It's a preservative that they use in vaccines.
Meaning it just like extends shelf life? Is that what you mean by
for like yes, but like for multi-dose vials. So like now we rarely even use it because most of the vaccines created nowadays are literally in a syringe. You just pop on a needle. So there really isn't a need for the preservatives anymore. I think when I first started doing vaccines, 15 years ago, they were puncture vials, but like for the last probably at least 5 years, I don't think I've ever even
they just come in a flu shot syringe.
Mm-hmm. So like we get a box, you grab a syringe, you twist on a needle, and you're good to go.
I'm learning,
but since 2001, the thimerosal, this preservative that they're so crazy about, it has been removed from childhood vaccines. They've all been preservative free, or at least free of that, because again, we're pushing these, single dose vials that are like good to go as soon as you need them. But yet he's claiming that the rates are going up, but we're not using this preservative anymore. So I don't know where he's getting his charts for making these links, but again, he's on just a whole nother level. It's like he cherry picks the data that he wants to, and it's stuff that you can't even compare. But then he'll make like a relation there. Like the biggest thing that we learn in science, is correlation does not mean causation. Like they're saying, oh, well, look at the rates of it, and it always occurs around this age. That's when we see these kids diagnosed.
There's other things
because right, but because we see, oh my God, as they are older, we're identifying it more. Well, it must be from vaccines, because they get more vaccines as they age.
Well, I shared with you my brother-in-law, super smart guy. He is a research scientist. He does, I'm probably going to get this wrong and he'll correct me. He's like my Bill Nye the Science Guy. I love listening to him, and he researches like infectious diseases and things like that. When COVID came in, like he was on the right in there, looking and working with his colleagues to try to solve that. But he sent me a chart to try to explain this, and it's the chart, and I'll share it on the screen. But the correlation between autism rates and the number of billionaires,
And it's like
actually
an
matches
exact
pretty good.
curve,
Yeah,
an exact curve. So obviously, billionaires are causing autism.
Obviously, like it's just
that's
absurd.
basically RFK Jr.'s level of research and stupidity that he's putting out there as in the position that he's in is despicable.
Yeah. Do you want me to play the clip with?
Yes.
And we've had this extraordinary chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 3% of American kids had chronic disease. Today, it's around 60%. And these are a broad category. The ones that Marty mentioned, like ADHD, neurological disorders, ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, and autism. All of these are injuries that I never heard of when I was a kid. They were not part of the nomenclature. They weren't part of the dialogue. There was zero spent in this country treating chronic disease when my uncle was president. Today, it's about $1.8 trillion annually. It is bankrupting our nation. 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. So how are we going to maintain global leadership with such a sick population?
Yeah, so he ends on 74% of our kids can't qualify for military service. One, that's not true. And two, that's what you're focused on. It's just like with the
just like
taxes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
the man's a moron. And yes.
He's just a complete buffoon.
Right.
Did you have anything else to say on vaccines? Because I had a couple things on just what HHS, which is the Department of Health and Human Services, some of the crap that they're cutting. But I'll let you. I don't want to get in this. I don't want to get in your way here.
There's a couple. Things that he's done. As there's a lovely. He had a quote, and it was just annoying to me, so I had wrote it down that autism is a preventable disease, not a disease.
Nope.
And he also then said, we know it's an environmental exposure. It has to be.
Because he's a doctor.
Because he has any type of education or background to be making these claims. And it's just such an insult to the people who have spent years of their lives studying autism and to those who are autistic. Like, it's just disgusting the way he, talks about autism. I can't.
Well,
there's no words.
And you read about the registry.
Yes, and
to create.
So they're now the NIH. He's having the NIH now gather
the National Institute of Health
private medical records from federal and commercial sources to give to him.
And
then
autism.
And then all of this is for external researchers that he has chosen to get comprehensive patient data.
A registry.
The problem, registries are such a good thing. I mean, if you're not having a baby or getting married, let's not do registries. How about that?
No, nothing. Rarely does anything good come from a registry. I was looking at kind of what HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, was suggesting they're going to cut. Or not suggesting, it's part of like a draft budget, I think.
Yeah.
They're planning to cut the National Suicide Hotlines program for LGBTQ youth. I think I sent this to you and our other sister. I could have been foaming at the mouth. I was so angry to see this. It was launched in 2022, and they have counselors
under the Biden administration.
Oh, I know.
And we're just trying to undo everything that they did,
good or bad. It was like the prescription drugs or something. Being able to negotiate that.
Mm-hmm.
Trump undid that.
And mind you, this hotline, it provides support to anybody. It's just in general a suicide hotline.
But
they're trying to cut
training
funding for the
counselors.
training
Yes.
for people who specialize with the, LGBTQ community.
Youth. But
And
youth
youth
in particular.
Yes.
Youth.
Yeah.
Children.
Yeah.
Who are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers. It is the whole attack on transgender. And this is not just limiting to transgender, right? I mean, it's LGBTQ. And so, they circle back to that because it used to be, they out of the gate years ago was attacking,
the gay community.
And now they've been focused most recently on the transgender, but it's everything. And it's all sickening. What really makes my blood boil is the hate towards children in this group.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What the hell is wrong with you? That
you think that you know better?
Yes.
And that you know better than the parents and the healthcare professionals that are there with the child all the time. That you think what your preconceived notions about the situation should, dictate how things are handled. Like, it's so disgusting.
Well, they don't want government involved until they do. That's what's always fun, And
nobody,
don't tread on
people
me.
that are, the people that are in this group, they're never going to, I guess, feel it or get any type of empathy. And maybe they still won't unless it affects them, unless it's their child. Then they just don't give a shit. And that's what's disgusting. Like that. The hotline has provided, it says, more than 1.2 million crisis contacts with life-saving services. And there's more than 1.8 million LGBTQ youth that consider suicide each year. And at least one actually attempts suicide every 45 seconds.
It's just awful.
And why should we have it? That would be the worst.
Yeah, as a parent.
And the fact that they're taking these away from some of our most vulnerable members of our society.
Yeah. It's the empathy that's lacking in this country right now. And I don't know how to deal with that. How do you teach an adult empathy? I mean, I teach my kids empathy. Yeah. I don't know how you teach. I mean, Trump does not have empathy. I mean, that's just one of those things that I think it's fact at this point. But there's also,
if they get this to pass, it's supposed to be implemented by October, I believe. So at least we have some time to maybe do some damage control. I'm not sure. Maybe get something else.
Well, maybe if you're looking for ways to donate to do some good, maybe look up some of these nonprofits who I think will step up for sure. But they shouldn't have to. The Trevor Project is
a good one.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you saw this. Part of the budget also under HHS is it ends the Narcan program, a grant program.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, a grant program that distributes doses and trains emergency responders to administer them, and then other addiction measures. But this country, I don't think anyone at this point doesn't know someone who's been affected by addiction. And maybe has lost a loved one or a friend to addiction.
And what's really disturbing is that just you caught me off guard with that one. That one really just gets me going.
It's awful
because it's not even necessarily the people who are suffering with the addiction, but it's accidental ingestions by, I don't know, children, and you're going to cut programs for that.
And even
because we want to, and which is really funny considering RFK Jr.'s history.
No, it's really fucked up is what it is. Yeah.
He's recovered, so fuck everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, I swear to God.
So there's that I saw. And then there's also been, I know we were going back and forth with this on cuts to the FDA for food safety. Apparently some of this has been reversed. That's a common theme in this administration. They cut things without asking or looking into it, and then they backtrack because they were cutting things on like milk, safety of milk. Oh, what could go wrong?
I mean, because we're not dealing with a bird flu outbreak that's now H5N1 that's affecting cows, and other mammals that were. That's a scare. I didn't even dive into that, but that one has me concerned with the stuff
They
that
did
I
reverse
have
it.
watched.
They did reverse that one. I read. You don't have a problem if you're not testing.
That's the Trump administration way.
Yeah. Put blinders on.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah. I went into a dive, and this is a little more out of my scope, but it's because it was related to the whole mercury bullshit with vaccines that I'm like, okay, let me just dabble in this. What's going on here? I went down the path and checked out our EPA because I think it was in January. They were super thrilled because the person that he put to head the EPA, Lee Zeldin, this guy said, first of all, he used to be on some committees in the House of Representatives, I believe, that was all for better ways to preserve the climate, like green energy. Yes. He believed, this was in 2016. So, I mean, God, it's just so long ago. He must have changed his whole thought process in the last 9 years.
I wonder why.
Believed in the science of climate change and that burning of fossil fuels were driving the problem. And wanted to pursue clean and green energy sources. But I don't know. Trump happened. And then for some reason, we just fall in line because that's the Republican way, I guess. We stop thinking for ourselves and just follow the money trail, I think. We want to just keep making money for ourselves and fuck the climate.
Ourselves. Yeah.
Yep. So that's really exciting. They had claimed basically that when they took over with the EPA, they had said today is the greatest day of deregulation our nation has seen. And I don't know how that's a positive thing, aside for
businesses can make more money. Yep.
So last Monday, the New York Times reported that the EPA was set to cancel tens of millions of dollars of grants to scientists studying environmental hazards faced by children in rural America. Mind you, again, all I can think of as I'm reading this is, what's this picture look like when Trump's cabinet meets? We have RFK Jr., who's convinced that this is environmental toxins causing autism. Then we have these assholes on the other side saying, roll back these regulations. Yeah. We need to get back to coal. It's fine. So then Zeldin on Face the Nation said he can absolutely guarantee the Trump administration's deregulations won't have adverse health impacts on people and the environment. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that
he sweet? Can guarantee, well, by all means.
Yes. Isn't it great? So we've rolled back clean air and water regulations. We've eliminated the agency's Office of Environmental Justice and external civil rights. This was an office set up to reduce environmental hazards in low-income communities. Shocker there. And they're going to reconsider a 2009 finding that greenhouse gases endanger human health and the environment. Jesus. Isn't that exciting? This is such a fucking timeline that we're living in right now. It's just great. So yes, and now we're going to weaken greenhouse gas reporting.
Again, if we don't report it,
we had made some substantial progress there too. So it's really exciting that we're doing that. So basically what this is doing is offering coal-fired power plants and other industrial polluters. It's like a green light. We're going to roll back these regulations. We're going to give you longer to make any adjustments for these guys to reduce emissions of toxic chemicals. Like, you want to guess what? Mercury, arsenic,
full circle,
and benzene. So then my little deep dive into mercury, because again, there is data. Mercury exposure can cause brain damage. Fetuses are especially vulnerable. Anyone that's been pregnant knows that they are told to limit the amount of like fish that they consume.
Tuna.
Need to limit it to like, it's like 1 or 2 servings per week or something.
I did that.
Yes. And fun fact, I don't know if you knew this. I was taught this in pharmacy school, or maybe it was like a biology class back in the day, or chemistry class. I don't know. Disney related too. Do you know why the Mad Hatter was called the Mad Hatter?
Mercury poisoning? I don't know. What?
Exactly.
Are you serious?
Yes. So back in, whenever, back in the day, people who were hatters, they made hats. They used mercury nitrate to process felt, like to process fur to make felt for hats. They were exposed to the fumes. It then basically made them a little off. It caused tremors, speech problems, mental instability, hallucinations, etc. That's where the whole Mad Hatter thing came from. I always was intrigued by that fact.
Fun fact. Did you just learn this, or you knew that?
No, I knew that one. But I was like, everybody else doesn't know that one. Down and
we're gonna roll back. Yeah. We're gonna roll back regulations on mercury.
I know, but I was like, well, that's a fun little fact there. Horrific fact.
I'm very excited about that.
Yes.
Can't wait for more
so
mercury.
Yes, we do have to watch out the mercury. And again, with too much seafood that contains it, the biggest source of the pollutant in the US is coal burning power plants. So and the thing is, what they were doing before, they're called MATS, mercury and air toxic standards. They have found that we've saved billions in public health by having more standards and regulations on this stuff. The original standard was implemented over 10 years ago. And then from that point, mercury pollution from these power plants is reduced by over 90%.
But we're going to go back.
Huge.
We're going to go back.
But they're going to lessen some regulations. So that's exciting.
Like fun.
Yep. So, and that's just mercury. They're also rolling back stuff on forever chemicals. I'm sure everyone's heard about these now. Yeah. These, that we know can be cancer causing, these things that can accumulate in the body. The EPA withdrew pending Biden administration plan, obviously, that was set to discharge limits on forever chemicals. But obviously, corporate interests are more important than public health. That's the bottom line. These people are getting paid. They're funneling money into politicians' pockets, so they don't give a flying fuck about public health and who it's affecting, because they're going to buy another yacht. They don't have to deal with the consequences.
A bigger yacht.
Yep. And these forever chemicals, we know, again, I said cancers, liver, heart issues, and immunological conditions in children. What do you know? It's just
lovely. It's funny how you're talking about the money, and I'm going to do a little plug here. I know I sent you something on the HBO documentary that talks about, it's called The Dark Money Game. For anyone who hasn't watched it, please do. It would be worth subscribing to HBO Max for a month just to watch. It's a 2-part series. The first part involves the state of Ohio. So it talks about corruption and the dark money at the local level. It is eye-opening and beyond disturbing, and it's all the result of Citizens United and the U.S. Supreme Court that basically said corporations have First Amendment rights, and so here comes the money. And so it's that money coming in and just completely corrupting individuals, causing individuals to flip-flop, right? RFK flip-flop too. I mean, he was like all about the environment. And he still seems to be, I guess. I don't
Money talks, though. Money talks.
Well, and then the
great.
part two of that documentary is about our U.S. Supreme Court. And I won't even get into it. Just watch it.
I haven't watched that one yet, but I'm probably going to be furious if I do.
So. Considering we're putting a whole lot of faith that they will be here to protect us, or that they're going to protect democracy and save us, I was very depressed afterwards, but highly recommend watching that. A little pick me up. You might want to have a drink handy when you're watching that. But at any rate, so let's end on a high note, because what you just gave me,
make sure
Disney bubble.
Let's
talk about getting in the Disney bubble.
Fine.
When is that? I know you said in our last episode you were thinking about maybe June or July or sometime this summer. What's your favorite time to go to Disney?
Winter, late winter, early spring. Just because
it's
not ungodly. Yeah. And well, typically, unless it gets under a certain degree, they keep, they'll keep them open. Both water parks are supposed to be open this summer, which is exciting. That hasn't happened, I think, since COVID.
We do like spending days at a day or two at the water parks. I love me some, is it Typhoon Lagoon with the wave pool?
Yeah.
Oh, if anyone,
my kids can do that all day.
I could just sit there and watch people, because it's hilarious, especially people who don't understand like what's coming at them. I almost fun story. I thought I was drowning with me and my dog, my youngest, the first time I got in it, and our mom was like, "You don't want to go out that far." I was only like my thigh high or something, and I was holding her, and in came the wave. Holy. I thought I was drowning with her, but we didn't drown.
It'll get you. Then you got to watch out, because you can get banged up, because they make the bottom of it kind of rough so that you can keep your footing. But if you don't have your feet and you run your leg up against it, it hurts.
I like just watching people, get surprised by the wave pool. But so you like winter? See, I like it hot. I like to be there when it's hot.
I like 70s and 80s.
I don't like 100, but I like
used to go in January because it's low crowd time too. But that was when my kids were younger and weren't in school, and now it's like trying to take them out of school. So now we go over like when they have like midwinter breaks or spring breaks.
I do not recommend.
Then they start getting busy. Yeah, I don't really care for.
We will never go on spring break again. Last time we went, it so busy. Yeah. And I don't really care that it's busy necessarily, but it was so busy that it was difficult to walk around in the parks. And just, I won't do that again, but we went during the summer before.
It's just so hot.
It is hot, but we would spend time at the water parks, and it was.
And that's what I've kind of told my husband. I'm like, we can go in August again, because we did that last year before school started. But it's just, depending on like what resort you stay at too. Like even the pools are like hot. Like it's not refreshing. If you go to the water parks, generally that's better because they're bigger and not as toasty.
But there's not going to be it's not going to be busy though, as busy, because all the Canadians and no one from,
honest to God. Yeah.
Outside the US, no one's coming. Nope.
I wouldn't if I didn't already live here. I mean, it's still a little bit scary to go anywhere these days because, I guess not so much for white people in our country.
Well, we do
not as big of a deal. We have
some privilege there, right?
A level of privilege.
Heaven forbid we admit that we have white privilege.
Well, a lot of people seem to forget that they do. Hence why they support this administration. But it's fine.
But on that note,
cheers.
My my ice water for the day, for the night.
Yeah, it's fine.
Well, until next time.
Yes. Don't eat too much tuna. Oh, wait. Fun fact on that. The amount of like mercury that's in a vaccine, that was in a vaccine when they did used to use thimerosal, was equivalent to a can of tuna, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Just so that we're all on the same page here.
Fun
Just
fact.
something for you to think about tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
I'll sleep well.
Yeah, I thought you might.
See ya.
Bye.